Exchange. So at SketchUp Exchange, I launched these new SketchUp Workflow for Architecture scrapbooks. So those are under the TSWFA heading under scrapbooks. And what those do is just really expedite all of the tasks that happen in layout. So I just want to take a moment to walk you through what that means and how I put these together, and maybe spend like 15 minutes doing that, and then we'll answer any questions that you guys have. So let me hop over into layout here, and I'll make sure to switch my screen sharing.
I'm on a webinar, but I'll be ready.
So
okay.
Let's see. We got a gentleman on the phone over there. If you could mute yourself, that'd be great. I'm having a little trouble with the presenter mode. So let me switch my windows here, and I'm going to start a new document in layout under templates. Okay, so you guys should be seeing my layout window, and if let's see, just let me know. Are you hearing me now? Okay, so in layout, what we've got going on here is our new scrapbooks. And so I kind of messed around and set them up for some other people too. So what the idea is that instead of placing the viewports and then going into your SketchUp model and inspector and changing the line weights and the scenes and the render settings and all the stuff that goes along with that, the idea is that I've created these scrapbooks that are based on levels so that you can just add the plans that you want and then relink it to your file, your design model. So right now what's happening though is that each one of these scrapbooks has to be on a per plan basis. So what that means is that I have one scrapbook for construction plan, which I don't think you guys are seeing this, but on this drop down, there's the construction plan, and then the other one that we have right now is the reflected ceiling plan. So those are the two. Scrapbooks that we have out right now, and I definitely intend on creating some other scrapbooks for like demolition plans, existing condition plans, furniture plans, and all that stuff. So as I go forward with this and we kind of work out some of the other bugs in this, then we'll release some more. So let me just demonstrate how these things work. So what I would do is click on, I have the construction plan level 1, and then I can just pick a plan. So if I add a 1/4 inch plan, I'll just add it to my presentation area, and then I'll add another page, go to the next level, which is level 2. You can see down there we can add another 1/4 inch plan, and we'll go to the next level, add a page, go to our 1/4 inch plan on level 3, and add maybe one more page, and go to our level 4 plan. All right, and so we can add level 4. So now, as I did in the other video, you can also add things like on level 2, we might decide we want a 1/2 inch enlarged plan of the kitchen. So the idea here is that I can go to File. Well, let me just briefly explore this presentation I created. It's an 8.5 by 11 page, and I've got several different pages here. So if I go back to page 1, this was level 1. Page 2 is level 2, 3, 4, and then page 5 is like our details page. So maybe I'll also throw on a larger plan like this. Okay, so now all I need to do is go to File, get my chat panel out of the way, File, Document Setup, and on the references, you'll always see this relink this file. So I can choose that and click on Relink, and then I'm guessing that you guys can't see this. This is just a Windows pathing So it just opens up like a Windows Explorer, and I'm going to path to my new VIC row house file and choose open. So when I do that, it automatically renders. I've got my auto render on right now because this isn't too big of a file. And now you can see what's happened here is we've got this plan is all set up at 1/2 inch. This one's all set up at 3/4 inch. And all I really need to do is stretch around my viewport now. So I've got 4 viewports that are embedded into this one scrapbook group. So I can stretch this around. It's going to auto-render for me. And so I can just set these guys up, make my large kitchen plan however I need to, and then look at what else has happened if I go through the other pages. So here's level 4. So I just need to stretch those viewports out now and position them on my page however I like. And so, the big thing that's happening is that by relinking the placeholder file in our scrapbook, we're able to just drop in all of our scenes. Now, the biggest concern here is that let's see. Are you guys all hearing me okay? Callie,
Yeah.
I know that you were doing okay. Yeah, okay. It sounds like maybe some people are having some problems, but I think everybody's all good. Okay, very good. Then I'll keep on rolling here. So everything comes in, but it all needs to be linked by scene name. So let me look at this scrapbook. I'll just click on Edit, and that'll open this scrapbook so we can kind of look at it. And so you can see this is a page called Level 1, and what I've done is, let's just take apart like the 3/4 inch construction plan. If I right-click on this plan and choose Ungroup, what that does is it breaks this down now into those 3 different scenes, or I'm sorry, 4 different viewports and 4 different scenes. So each one of these viewports, we can look at what those scene names are. So I kind of started this new idea of like hatch A and B. So hatch B sits on the bottom, and hatch B is rendered as a hybrid. Hatch A sits above that, and it's rendered as a hybrid as well. That way it's just going to catch all. If it's a raster hatch or a vector hatch, it'll render appropriately. And then right above that, you're going to we're going to have our heavy viewport rendered as a vector, and then our light viewport rendered as a hybrid. And then if we also look at our Styles tab, you can see that the light line work on this much larger scale is set to 0.4, whereas our heavy line work is set to 0.9. So I've already done like all the math for you as far as scaling up these plans and applying what I think are the appropriate line lengths. Not to say that you can't go back in there and tweak them, make it your own scrapbook. So that's definitely encouraged. So that's how all this comes together. I'm going to close this scrapbook, and I'm not going to save it because I find that when I have the scrapbooks open and I'm editing the references and messing with them, it just is not a good idea. So let me just go and open the SketchUp model now. So I'm going to switch over to SketchUp, and I'm going to share that screen with you as well. And I'll click on Open, go to my desktop, Dropbox, Resources, and I've got my scrapbooks, and then in here, I've got my relinked this file. Okay, so what is extremely important to make these work is that the scene names that you're seeing right here have to be absolutely exactly the same in your model. So I am working on some other ways of expediting that, like I have the VIC default template that already has these scene names in it. That's not a bad start. All you have to do is really just build your model. As long as it's a new construction project and it's only 4 stories tall, you'd be all good. If you're doing something different than that, you would need to understand, how to make that work. But I'll make this this template file with all of these scene names already inserted. I'll make that available on that TSWFA scrapbooks page too immediately after. But This is the most important thing, is that these scene names exactly match the names in your model, because otherwise, when layout is looking for these scene names, it's going to replace those scenes that are not named properly with the last saved SketchUp view. So you'll probably see some goofy things happening if you don't name your scenes exactly as they're shown in the relink this file SketchUp model. So hopefully you guys see the benefit of that. I mean, I think that overall the system we have some, overall the system, it can be rather complex with stacking viewports and managing layers and creating scenes. And that really is just the nature of how it has to be done in SketchUp in order to address some of the issues that I saw or some of the needs that I saw for a true drafting solution. So the reasons for this, if you're kind of going into this and thinking, gosh, this is really complicated, why do we do this? Well, the reason that for all of this, it's definitely been thought out, is that if you're going to use SketchUp and Layout as a drafting program, it's extremely important that we're able to control line weights, that we have dynamic hatch, so the hatch needs to move. If I move a wall, I want the hatch to move. It's important that the 3D model is the one base model, and all of my diagrams and all of my renderings and everything is derived from one model, so that I don't have to update that over and over in all these different places like you would in 2D drafting. And I can't remember if I already said this one, but definitely working with consultants, that's a major need. So in order to accomplish those kind of 3 or 4 the bottom line requirements of a true drafting program, we had to come up with this system. So the layering allows us to pick apart the model and display it in a certain way so that we're able to export DWGs for consultants. And furthermore, we're able to break down our drawing into heavy line weight entities versus light line weight entities versus hatch. So that's where all this stuff comes in. And what I'm really working on right now is, if I start a new document, I want to get it to a place where really all you would have to do as the designer is use this template and start a new document. And once you start building your design in here and adding geometry, all that you need to be responsible for is taking this, making it a group, and then applying it to the right level and the right walls layer and interior versus exterior layers. So ideally, we're going to get this to a place where that's all that you're responsible for as a designer, and ideally everything else just kind of falls into place. But sometimes everything does not fall into place, and that's why it's a really good idea to pick these things apart and understand how they're created so that you can take them and then break them down and make them work best for you. So that's just kind of the quick overview of these scrapbooks. I see there's a couple questions now popping up in the chat panel, which that's all good. So let's see. One person's having slow internet lag, so I did hit record, and I will post this on our YouTube channel, and then I'll also throw it up on the forum as well. So I'll send out a reminder or something about that. So definitely, as long as the recording and everything goes smoothly, I will definitely post this out there. So there's another question from, let's see, every model has to be set up this way. Well, every model that, if you're going to be creating either construction documents or you don't even have to go as far as construction documents. It could be your schematic design or design development set. And so as long as, if you're intending to use SketchUp and Layout to produce these plans and control line weights, then yes, you do need to set them up this way. It's not to say that you couldn't kind of dumb this down and just say, well, I only want to have one viewport for one line weight and one hatch. I mean, it's possible you could kind of hack it down to that level, but for my experience, this is just the right blend of of complexity and simplicity all in one. So one model be used for all projects. So I'm guessing that you're kind of hinting at what I'm showing here is that this is a new this is a new template I was working on. And in this template, we have all of our utility scenes that are helpful for like axis check, 2D drawing, and all those different things. So just, design is kind of the fast, snappy scene. But then we also have all of our scenes in here set up correctly. And if you look, we also have, let me get my chat panel out of the way. Let me turn on my section planes. So we already have all of our section planes added to this template. And so when I go through here to like construction plan 01 heavy and go to view section planes, you can see that on the plan 01 heavy, light, and all these, this section plane is already active. And then if I go to plan 2 heavy, you can see that plan 2 is now active. So I just made some general assumptions that section planes are going to be like 4 feet off a finished floor level. I made these floor levels at 10 feet. So you would just need to come in here and say, oh, okay, well then, this one should be here, this one should be there, and readjust your section planes. But the benefit of this template is that everything is already in the model, in place. All your layers and section planes and everything are already attached to your scenes. So technically, all you would have to do is build your model and have a limited understanding of the way this system works to get it to work right. So just a great way to expedite the whole process by setting this up. And I will say, it's probably dangerous to talk about, but or probably not a good idea to talk about, but I do have a plugin that I'm hoping to have out that will really, really expedite this entire process for the front end of this system. So it'll be some kind of a questionnaire that you fill out based on what type of drawings you're producing, how many levels, what are your floor heights, is it new construction versus renovation. So if you can imagine, you're going to hit a button, fill out a questionnaire, and then that the plugin will essentially build a custom template for you for every project. And that custom template will link up to all of your scrapbooks. But we're working on that right now, and hopefully that'll be out in the next couple months. So at some point, can you display a more complex construction document layout? Let's see. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me go up here, and as the questions are coming in. So do the scenes need to be in the same order as your template? Definitely not. Just as long as all of the scenes are named exactly the same. And I do have this methodology of naming. I do LO underscore, which, at this point, you could probably argue that doesn't need to be in there, but I'm sticking with it because that's just what I did in the book. Construction plan 02, and then I always do a space dash space. So if you don't get that space dash space in there, it won't work. It won't be exactly the same naming convention. But rather than trying to reset the whole naming convention, I'm just kind of riding with this one because that's the one that was in the book, and that's the one actually that I just kind of got in my head too. So display a more complex. Go ahead. You have a question?
Yeah, I have a question just with the naming, because you're calling this LO underscore construction plan, but when you edit those little models that you did, I thought it said just plan 02.
That
LO underscore plan.
Yes. Let me look at that. So I'm going to switch the window over into layouts. And you're saying that in my scrapbook that said plan?
Yes.
Or okay. I'll click on edit here. And I have been kind of, let's see what this says. SketchUp model, view, if I select one of these. So this one does say plan 01 heavy. It's possible that when I first posted these, I did make a revision to it. So some of the first scrapbooks that I put out there might not have had that full naming convention applied. And when I posted those, I did put like a little change log note in there that says I kind of changed the naming convention. So it could either be that, or it could have been that like this was just being hidden, like if this thing were shrunk down and you just weren't seeing the name. Or it's possible that you were seeing this right here on the scrapbooks, where it just says construction plan.
Okay, I'll go back and have a look. Maybe it was one of the earlier ones. Yes.
Yeah, if you're questioning, yeah, I probably could have put like a beta, throw a beta out here, just because I just want to see, if this was working for everyone and how it was, if it was actually saving time. I found that it was very helpful, and I thought it was great. Yeah. Good. I just thought that I would not go nuts on creating all of them right away, because I wasn't sure how this was going to evolve. Like, I thought we would talk about maybe the construction plan, reflected ceiling plan, but so now, it's evolved a little bit. We've got our new naming convention. So I changed those and set them up down here. So that would be a good reference when you're naming your scenes. Probably an even better reference is going to be right after this when I post that new template that already has everything set up, so that way you could at least start from a place where everything is all set up for you, and then if you don't have level 3 and 4, all you would do is delete those scenes and delete those section planes, and you would never even, it wouldn't matter if you did or didn't, but it would be nice to clean up your model in that way. Let's see. So someone's asking about a more complex construction document and layout. I do have, let me switch over, I'll switch this window, and let me close this, and I'm not going to save those changes. I'll close this one too. We'll leave that one open just for now. I do have a much more complex construction document set. So we did do an office remodel, and this is for Crocs over in Boulder. Their corporate headquarters, but the best example of construction documents, I think, is the row house, and I've posted those on the forum. And the reason I like the row house project, that's the project we're looking at right here, and that's the project that's also in the book and on the cover and all that. And the reason I like that project is because I use that to kind of break and test the system. So it's more of when the project involves levels and building units and just a lot of the more complex descriptors or conceptual levels. So that's why I think that's a good project. But let me see. I might still have. Let me go to my Dropbox and see under SketchUp workflow. Actually, this is a good one, and I know for sure that I have it right now. I might have archived that other one. So, all right. So this is a decent project too. This was for Steve Levin at Helix Architecture out there in St. Louis. So if I go back, this is a good example of like all these different pages. We have a building plan with like a main level. And so, we're starting to get a little more complex. I mean, the cool thing about this project is, Steve hired me to do his drafting and help him with the drafting. And he stamped this, and he built it and sent me the pictures. I should post these. So, this project, it went through, and so we've got a key plan. We kind of cropped out the drawing and used all the hatching techniques to call out, like, demising walls, versus interior unit walls. So this was a pretty good project. So we do have somebody out there with their phone on. If you are called in on the audio conference, could you mute your line manually? I do apologize. I'm having trouble with Join Me in the presenter mode. So if you could mute that on your own, that'd be great.
Wonderful.
Let's see.
Wonderful.
So there was a question on the audio, let's see, let me just answer that. To get audio, click on the phone icon. Okay, so can you show how to manipulate the scrapbook for a 3/16 inch? Okay, so a question on like creating your own scrapbook, or taking the scrapbook that we already have and generating another plan at 3/16 inch equals a foot. So to do that, what I would do, I typically avoid hitting this edit button unless I'm just going to open this and kind of mess with it for just a moment. So what I would do is actually go to File and choose Open. I go to my Resources, Scrapbooks, and
we believe that flexibility,
okay, so scrapbooks, and we've got our TSWFA scrapbooks, and then I've got my construction plan. So I'm going to open this one, and then I'm going to save it into my temp folder. So save as, we'll go to desktop, temp, and I'm going to call this one construction plan test. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to. All right. So we've got our new scrapbook, and I'm going to now go and let's see. Let's start with our 1/4 inch plan because that's relatively close to 3/16. And I'm sorry, guys. I'm having a hard time thinking here. Let me see. I can. You give me just one moment here. See if I can't mute these guys.
Very nice. Yeah, they got good dialogue on this site. Yeah, they do.
Okay, so I think I might have figured it out. Can you guys hear me okay right now? Okay, perfect. So, yes, I've defined myself as the presenter. I've got you all muted. We're in much better shape now. Okay, I can think clearly. Okay, so now, sorry about that. So we've got this guy here. We can ungroup. So if I ungroup this, and I'm going to select all of these viewports and go to my SketchUp model, and here's my scales. So I can just click on the scale drop-down. I apologize if you guys aren't seeing this. I'll choose 3/16 inch equals a foot. All right, so that drops it down just a little bit smaller. And now I'll just kind of maybe reshape my viewport a little bit. So you would have to do this for every level. So I had ungrouped it, so now I can take all of these viewports, right-click, and group them again. And everything falls, it's all right back into place. So so that's really all you have to do. And let me do it one more time because there's a couple little tricks that kind of come up. So on level 2, let's see, what was I going to say? Right-click, ungroup. The reason that I started with the 1/4 inch plan is because it is very close in size, so the line weights are probably the same. So that's no problem there. So, if you look at what that means, this line weight is at 0.2, whereas on the 1/8 inch construction plan, that line weight is at heavy is at 0.3, so light is going to be at 0.15. So I've actually scaled these line weights up based on the size of the plant. So you just go in here, reset the scale to be 3/16 inch equals a foot. Truth be told, you don't even have to resize the viewport, but I don't know, I probably would. So you go through and do that for each one of these levels. You'd have to do that for levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then furthermore, to really make the scrapbook clean, I would go into my layers, unlock my annotations, and I'd switch this up to 3/16 inch equals a foot. And just in my, all right, there we go. So that looks pretty good. And so now I want to make sure that I lock those annotations again, because if that layer is not locked, they will be able to come in as scrapbooks themselves. So, okay. So, okay. All right. So what else happened? Let me while I wait for a few more questions there, I will save this over into my scrapbooks and just show you how this would work. So I could do a file, save as. I'm going to go to my Dropbox, into my resources, in my scrapbooks, TSWFA. I'm just going to call this temp because, as you guys know, whenever something can be trashed, I just name it temp, and then we'll just test it, see how it works, and then trash it. Okay, so I can close this, and I'll go back over here to this document, and let's add another page, and let's go see if that, I might need to restart my restart layout. So I'll do that. I'll close this. We don't need to save those. Close this. Close this. Fire up layout. I'll share this with you in just a moment. So as far as posting that template, definitely. I'll post that template I'm only going to post it on the scrapbooks page because it really only pertains to that. But that'll be my most updated template, and I'll make sure to put that on the TSWFA scrapbooks page. So we'll do this. All right, so now I should be seeing a file in here called temp. There it is. Okay, and then you can see here we have our 3/16 inch scrapbook. So on level 2 and level 1, that's actually a good point right there, is that wherever you save your scrapbook is where it's going to start. So for this one, it started on level 2, which may or may not be desirable. I might prefer to go edit the scrapbook, go to page 1, close it, and save it. And that way, whenever I switch back to that temp scrapbook, now it's probably on reload. I'll always start at level 1. So so here's my 3/16 inch plan, and then I just go to File, Document Setup, References, relink this file, and let's relink that to demo files and here. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Let me share my screen. I'm going to share my window. Okay, so what I did here is I just added that 3/16 inch scrapbook. Cool. Okay, so definitely posting the template on the scrapbooks page. Are your line weights based on standards? You know, my line weights are not. That would be a good thing to do. I should look up the AIA standards and see how close I can get to them. But the only difficult thing there is that we don't break things apart. We just kind of have these this array of line weights, and it's more of like a heavy, kind of like heavy one, and you've got like really heavy, then you've got heavy, and then you've got light, and then you've got really light. So we're not really able to totally define, all those different pieces. But that's a good point. I'll take a look at that and see how close we are. But I just base it on what I think looks good. If you have a really big plan, obviously you want the line weights thickened up a bit. So that's kind of the approach I took. Cool. So I do have everybody on mute right now. So if you want to ask a question, just throw that into the chat panel. You just click on that little comment icon up there on the Join Me, and you can type in your question. So Cool. So, question about schedules. I do create schedules manually. I do have a scrapbook, and this is somewhere on the forum. If you look at, what was it, like linear style, quite a few pages in. So here's my door schedule. I developed this scrapbook while I was working with Steve Levin of Helix Architecture there. That was that loft project I was showing just a little bit ago. So let's look at this. I'll add a new page. Oh, let's duplicate our page. That's a better way to do it. And we'll just erase that. And then to add a scrapbook, I just click once here and click once there. And all right, so let me get this back up here. So these scrapbooks, whenever you're using really complex scrapbooks, which that one is definitely a complex scrapbook, it's always a good idea to save. And I've also got a lot of things happening here as far as screen sharing is going. So that's really not a good time to flex your graphics card either. So let me just go and look at that linear style scrapbook. Click on Edit, and I'll just show you how those are put together. So I found that the easiest way to do this is with text windows. So I've already provided this whole scrapbook, so this is a great place to start. You can always just break it down and change the fonts and delete columns or whatever. But really, the way I do this is if I ungroup these are just little text boxes, and they're and then what did I do? I drew the grid. So I actually took lines and drew a grid. And that way, all you have to do is just double click in and change it. So it is all manual, but I found that for the types of projects that I create, mostly residential or light commercial, it's kind of like the 2D CAD way of doing things. I've messed around with using a spreadsheet, linking that. That didn't work so well. So I found that just kind of the old-fashioned 2D way of creating schedules is a pretty good way to do this. As far as importing simple schedules from Excel, in my experience, you don't want to import the actual spreadsheet data. What I found is that if you print to image, you can, from Excel, you print the table or the schedule to an image and link that image to your layout document. That way, whenever you print all of your images, you can overwrite the old ones, and they're already linked, and you just need to refresh them. So I did have some success with that method, but ultimately I did land on, I just liked to have the control of how it looks in layout, and I found it to be just easier to take care of it there. Cool. So, as far as importing schedules from Word, that's definitely would work. And I suppose the real benefit there is that you can just work in Word and type and spell check and tab and do all those things. So so that does work. So yeah, like if I were to just create a schedule from scratch, I want to say that since I built that last one, I landed on the idea of like I would just say like door number, and then I'd hold control, make a copy of this, size, and select these, and I'd give them a stroke of like we'll just say 0.4, and maybe like stretch these around, and so I'd make all of my grids new. I forget what else are we doing for door schedules here. So like you could have type, and then you can have frame, And so, you can just kind of stretch these things around, and then I might take all of these and copy them down, and I just do like a placeholder. Actually, I want to make all of these, what is it, unbounded. All right. So unbounded, I should have done that first. That's okay. That. Stretch these around. Okay, so then I would make my placeholders here. And, maybe I want these to have a fill that's like dark gray, and I want the text style to be white and bold. And then I would just take all these guys and copy those down. And then if you want to have something special happening, like, like a thick border around the whole thing, I could draw a rectangle around the entire thing. So you're starting to get a couple different line weights. Maybe I forgot to say what this is. So I'd copy this one up and over, and I call this my door schedule. All right, so let me switch windows, see if that jogs us. Okay, so hopefully that jogged the screen sharing back. Cool, so that's how I would build a door schedule, and then you can always make it a group. Then you can move it around and edit things that way. So that's what I've found. But just like anything, it's always best it's best to just take a little bit of time and build that scrapbook so that when it's time to throw that door schedule in there, you just drop it in and just fill in the blanks instead of recreating it from scratch every single time. And as mentioned on the SketchUp Exchange, I did post that linear style scrapbook somewhere. I know that's out there somewhere, but that has the door schedule already in it. And sometimes it's easier to just take what I've done and explode it and back it up to being what you need. So let's see. So any other questions out there? We've been a pretty bumpy road here on the screen sharing today. So sorry about that, guys, but I think we're getting there. So if you have any other questions, definitely glad to answer them. I'll just kind of hang tight and watch the chat panel. I'll answer anything you guys, anything you have to ask me. I'm more than happy to answer it. So let's see. So if you have any questions about 3D model lighting questions, I'd be glad to answer any specifics on that. How do you get the program to open a particular scrapbook when you start? That's a good question. My guess is that if I were to set this to construction plan and then close the program here, my guess is that it would either look at what the last scrapbook I was in, or it would potentially load them, based on the naming, like which one comes first. But I'm actually not sure. But I think it's whatever you were in last is what comes up on the next time you open the program. Okay, so all layers created on layer 0 versus on separate layers. So that's a subject of debate sometimes. Let me switch my window here back into SketchUp. So the reason that this is like a kind of a going back to a basics type question, but it's very important moving forward, because if you're coming from CAD or really any other drafting program, there's like a pretty strong desire to want to mess with your layers. And it took me a while to finally just say, break yourself of any habit of like trying to manage your layers, because layer 0 right here is always the current active layer. If I could make a plugin that would disable these dots right here, that would be a good start. There's never any reason to ever click on any of these other dots. You always leave that on layer 0. And then when you draft, that means that whenever you are drawing in SketchUp, so like if I draw a rectangle, this is on, let's see, layer 0. Now, where the confusion starts in is if I were to draw a circle on here and add the edge of the circle to a layer that's turned off, like probably always off is off. So let's just put that on always off. Okay, so now I'm still looking at my rectangle and everything looks the way I want it to. But like, let's say I push pull, and now I've got this kind of goofy thing happening where our layers are off because we've added edges or surfaces to layer 0 or to a different layer. So that's, if you ever find that these weird things are happening, edge visibility is kind of jamming up, you just want to take triple click, select all, add it to layer 0, and then everything's back to a much more manageable state. So always leave layer 0 as your current active layer. All edges and surfaces always belong on layer 0. The only exception of that is if you just want something to be hidden. Like if I just never want to see that, I'll show you an example of that. Like let's say I make this into a group and I assign the layer level 1. And then let's make a copy of this. And I want this one to be defined as level 2. All right, so now level 2 I need to turn on. We'll just go to all on. All right, so now between level 1 and level 2, I want to see, I don't want to see this line. So that's a perfect candidate for always off. I would take that, assign it to the layer always off, and let me just turn that off. And then when I back out, I need to go into this one as well, assign that to always off. So now it looks like it's seamless, but I have level 2 and level 1. So that's the one exception to this rule, is all edges and surfaces belong on layer 0, unless you just really need that to change the visibility properties, add it to always off, or maybe you come up with another layer that's like that works for your plans. So let me hop back into layout, share that one with you. We have a question about how do I, let's see, how do I bring in a different scrapbook after I start? After you get started, you can just select scrapbooks from this drop-down here. That'll show you all of your different scrapbooks. So right now I'm on the construction plan one. In the scrapbooks, you can navigate the pages of the scrapbook by using these little page arrows. So you can see like the level is changing as I go through here. You can also path to your scrapbooks. Like that could be part of this question, is under Edit Preferences. And if you go to your folders, you can add another scrapbook folder so that, like for me, I have a scrapbook folder in my resources folder in my Dropbox. So in my Dropbox. So I just save all my scrapbooks in there. But this is where you would path layout to look for another scrapbook. Okay, so how do I bring in a different scrapbook? How do you get a section point to remain active when you create the next floor plan scene? That's a good question. I think, let me share this screen with you. Switch window. Okay, let's see. The best way to do that is when I'm creating my scenes, let's pretend like I don't already have all these in here. And let me go to my scenes dialog, and I'm just going to get rid of everything except heavy. So we'll delete those. Okay, so construction plan 01 heavy. When I look at the way this is set up, I can see view, section planes, and you can see that the level 1 section plane is active. So the best way to start with this scene, with this section plane active, is I click on this scene that I've already created, and when I click on the plus sign, it basically duplicates the scene that I'm on, and I can call this one LO underscore construction plan 01 space dash space light. All right, and then I'll go into my layers, and maybe I'll turn off my walls and my stairs, and turn on my 2D graphic, windows, doors, and then update. So by doing that, by starting with the scene that has the section plane active that I want, it's going, when I add my new scene, it's going to duplicate with those settings. So now in this one, the section plane is active as well. I find that's the easiest way. Like once you create one scene, it's always easier to start with that scene because your shadow settings are correct, your style is correct, your layers are pretty close to where they should be, and the section plane is correct. So that's the best way to create that next scene. Okay, so here's the bottom line question here. What has been your experience as to the kind of time savings this method provides versus CAD or BIM for, say, a luxury home? So I would, at the level that I'm at this point, I would definitely argue that I'm much faster in SketchUp than I am in CAD. The real benefit comes when you're using your SketchUp model. Let's see. I want to address the question as it was asked. I guess I was quickly going to compare it to 2D CAD, because in 2D CAD, if an elevation changes, I have to change, or if a plan changes, I have to change the plan, the reflected ceiling plan, all the different plans. I have to change all the elevations to make it reflect all those changes, and I need to be aware of that over and over. So if you spend the time creating a nice, clean SketchUp model, and you're able to extract all of your 2D drawings from that one 3D model, you're going to have your time is going to be heavy on the front end of getting that model set up. The real time savings is on the back end, where when you start making changes, your documents update, your presentation updates, all of your renderings update. So it's just putting in that front end, that work up front. But now, to really address your question, like how much time are you going to save? Well, that's tricky. I mean, I would say that for a project where you are going to produce renderings and some sort of visualization and plans and elevations, I think you're going to save a lot of time. I mean, maybe in my experience, I'm able to knock these things out like, I don't know, maybe twice as fast, because when I compare this to 2D CAD, I don't have to make all those changes. I don't have as much experience with something like Revit, but I do know that for the lighter projects, I have people come to me all the time saying Revit is so heavy. It's like it asks you so many questions. You have to have so much stuff thought out in order to get a couple lines on paper. And with this system, or with SketchUp and Layout, it's just very quick. I mean, you start drawing walls, and you can have your plan to scale and have like a set of drawings really set up very quickly. So I think there's a pretty strong time savings, and the cost savings too. It's pretty nice that SketchUp is very affordable when compared to all these other heavier drafting and BIM programs. So I hope that answers your question. that's definitely a concern. I mean, that's definitely something that's like, why spend the time converting? And I think that's probably what you're getting at, is like, is it worth it to take the time to struggle and learn the system? And I'd say that for residential, absolutely. I think it's definitely well worth it. You'll find that you're saving a lot of time, and you're producing a lot more deliverables. Clients will be pretty psyched about it. So let's see, SketchUp Pro with Maxwell Render. I used Maxwell Render. Let me see. Did I lose my audio here? Someone mentioned sound is missing. Let me know if that's still missing there. I'll keep talking. Okay, cool. So viewer 132, check your settings there. Let's see. So SketchUp Pro and Maxwell Render. I was impressed by Maxwell Render, and my experience with that was like several years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I thought it was really awesome. I thought it was like one of the most powerful rendering engines I've seen, but it was difficult to use, and I think since I used it, they've created a plugin that runs inside SketchUp, and my guess is that works a lot better than it did when you had to like export SketchUp out and import into Maxwell and do all that. So as far as rendering goes, I'm sure you guys have put it together that we're affiliated with Lumion. Now, Lumion is awesome for architectural renderings of architecture, of night renders, of tons of landscape, massive sites. It could be argued that it's slightly limited on interior renderings. So if you're looking for like super clean interior lighting, I might point you towards either Maxwell Render, or my favorite was Twilight Render. So Twilight Render, I'll type that into the chat panel there. Twilight Render is awesome. Shader Light, they're really awesome too. And then Podium, I have Podium, and I moved on from them, but I wasn't quite as impressed, but the community in general is pretty psyched about Podium, so I wouldn't underestimate them either. Good thing about those 3 plugins I just typed into the chat window, they're all like $100, $100 or $200, so they're super affordable, and they're extremely photorealistic. So Maxwell Render, I'm not sure. I apologize. I'm not as well versed in what's going on with them, but I know that their render engine was extremely impressive. So I wouldn't hesitate checking out Maxwell Render as well. Viewer 49, I do hope that's some kind of help there. I just apologize. I'm not quite as versed on Maxwell. There's another question about an equivalent of a scrapbook in SketchUp. And ultimately, that's components. So in SketchUp, let me switch my window over to SketchUp. I'm already there. So in SketchUp, in your components browser, you can click on this context arrow here and choose Open or Create a Local Collection, and then you can browse for a folder. And as it's set up in the book, I think this is like chapter, I forget, like 5 or 6 or something like that, SketchUp Collections. So you can path to, I always use Dropbox resources. Everything in my resources folder, these are all of the stuff I need for all to path to. So I've got one called Components. So we can open that, and then you can see the way that I've broken up my components is through, I don't know, I should probably practice what I preach a little bit more and really come up with a system for this. But I'll either just do like by room or by object, or sometimes I've found it's helpful to organize your components by project. So like if I'm working on a super modern house, I'll just build a whole component collection based on that house, so that moving forward, if I need to work on another modern house, it's easy for me to get to that. So the component browser, it works just like a scrapbook, really. I can go and say, we'll just look at appliance. Here's a Maytag combo washer dryer. You just click on it, you drop it in your model, and just make sure you put it into the correct container, which I don't have those set up right now, but essentially you would have a couple of these guys, you'd make them a group, and then you'd set this group to be on the like fixtures or equipment layer. So like I just set this up on my fixtures layer. So that way you apply your layer once, and then whenever you want to add more of your fixtures, you just add those to the correct container, and everything ends up in the right spot. So as far as creating, kind of back onto the photorealistic rendering, all these plugins that I'm describing, like Twilight, Shaderlight, and Podium, I know for a fact that those are plugins in SketchUp. And they have tools like, I'll just speak about Twilight Render because that's the one that I know the most about. There's a Create a Light tool, and so like if you've created a light in SketchUp, like actually model the light, and you're looking at it thinking, gosh, I wish that lit up. You use the Add Light tool in Twilight, add the light there, and then when you hit render, it's going to end up rendering the way, and lighting up. The tricky thing about those plugins is, or really any photorealistic rendering program, is that there's some guesswork to it, because you add all the lights and then you hit render and it might be really dim. So you have to go back in and either adjust your exposure or dial up the strength of the lights. So it's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of hitting render, waiting a minute, look at it, doesn't work right, go back and adjust it. That's one of the reasons that I think Lumion is just light years beyond, is that when you add a light in Lumion, it actually drops in like it's a flashlight. You can move it around, you can see where it's shining, and then you hit render and it's like, 10 seconds later you've got your image. So, I guess the overall thought on that is that yes, you build your lights in SketchUp, but you have to add a special entity through one of those plugins to actually create the light bulb, if that makes sense, or the light source. We would even call it the filament. In order to get it to emit light, you have to use one of those plugins and put a light source in your lamp. So, let's see, making double-hung windows and doors with jams is time-consuming. It's a good plugin to make it easier. Okay, so that's a good question. One way that you could get around this is like, well, there's actually a couple ways. So first way, I won't cover this, but like a dynamic component. Those take a little bit of time to get used to and to build, but there's some pretty good examples in Component Sampler, I think. I don't know. If you just look at this door, let's just look at that. So this door is dynamic. I know that because it has this little green symbol there. I can right-click on it and choose Component Options. The component options for this door, a dynamic component is basically a 3D model with a spreadsheet attached to it. So each piece of this dynamic component is somehow affected by these options. So like maybe I want to make the door 8 foot tall and 3'6" wide. So I'll click on Apply, and then it reconfigured that door. So it didn't stretch it or scale it. It actually like rebuilt that component. So that's one way to do it. I think a better way to create these windows. Let me just draw like a little structure here and get back to perspective view. I've got too many windows going on here. Let's get rid of some of those too. All right. Much better. Now I can think. Okay. So let's just delete this stuff. View. I'm going to turn off my section cuts, turn off my section planes, and let's just trash this stuff. Okay. So now I'll explode this. We've got just a very simple model. This way I can say like offset by 12 inches, and so we'll just kind of call this our wall. So what I'll do now, let's say I draw a window opening on this, and we'll say 3 feet, 5 feet. All right, so here's my window, and then let's push this through. So you can see that I punched a hole through there. Now, I can't remember if, let me get the chat panel out of the way here. Windows. Okay, so this is probably the best way. So under Tools, Windows, this is a free plugin, and I'll show you where to get this in just a moment. So I can tell this the width is 3 feet, the height is 5 feet, and I'm going to create a double hung window. So now it's very easy for me to drop that in there and then just kind of scoot it back into place. I do need to right-click and choose Unglue and then kind of scoot it into place there. I might even further consider going into this window component and making all of this stuff a group and adding that to the layer 3D object. And then maybe I want to draw my 2D symbol. So I might, or my 2D graphic, I might draw a rectangle there and make that a group, and then double click in and just draw like a simple window symbol and make sure I call that 2D graphic. So that way, within this one window, component, I've got my 3D object and my 2D graphic. That window plugin is under the window dropdown in the extension warehouse. You just type on. I probably just type window and see what comes up. But so that that's a pretty cool plugin. I think it tends to work for most of what I do. If you have like a standard, if you have a standard window brand and set that you work with, it would probably be worth it to go in and just build all those windows and have that window collection in your components. That way you can just drop them in as you need them. I typically work on a lot of different projects for a lot of different people, so I usually just make them on the fly. Here's Window Maker. So the name of that plugin is called Window Maker. So plugin. So that one's free. Making double hung windows. Is there a good plugin or something to make? Okay, so that's a good way to do it. I think that method it's limited, but I don't know. As mentioned, I create so many different windows that I can't find like a catch-all. So that's one way I do it too. Let's see. So, do you name your groups to match layer names? That's a really good question. I typically don't, because I find that I don't really care about the group name. But I will say that there's a plugin called Rename Group by Layer, and it doesn't work real well. You have to run it a couple times, but it's much quicker than having to rename groups manually. So where that would come in is, like, if I were to open, let me open a file where this would actually apply. So I'll just open up the from resources, scrapbooks. I'll open up my demo file from here for the row house. Okay, so let me get to a scene where I can see what's happening here. We'll go all on, design. Let's just do exterior. And set that to perspective. Okay, so the only reason that, or at least the only reason I can think of off the top of my head that you would want to rename your groups. Oh, let's see. Hopefully my screen sharing is all good. Okay, so let me go to Window and open up my outliner. Okay, so now when you rename your groups and components, your outliner starts to become a little more valuable. So you can see like this one is Unit F, and I've been a little bit sloppy with this, so like I should rename this one Unit F, and that way it should reflect in my outliner. And let that rethink itself. Okay, so there now it's called Unit F. I can expand that. Now, inside Unit F, I've got some other levels called, let me double-click in there. It's a little laggy when you've got the outliner open, and I find it's you're kind of asking for trouble. So let's keep our fingers crossed. I'm not sure why this tends to be laggy or kind of slow things down, but it does. So just be aware, there's some times when you just want to hit File Save before you go doing something. Okay, so if I just click on this, this is called, right now it's just called Group. But you can see it's on the layer called Conceptual Level 4, so I might call this, 04, Enter. And then we're going to see that be renamed to 4. So there is a plugin that I was going to kind of broadcast out there and suggest it, but it doesn't work predictably every single time, so I just was a little bit weary about sending it out there. So it's called Rename, let me see, it's called Rename Group by Layer. I think that's what it's called. And you know what, I don't know where that one is off the top of my head. I have to go track it down. But what it does, it could be really valuable for the system, because what it's going to do is when you run that plugin, it's going to go through every single group and essentially take the layer that's applied to the container and rename the definition name as Conceptual Unit F. So then what you'd end up with is like this whole this file organization structure throughout your entire model, where like if you want to get to Unit F, Level 4, this one might be walls, existing versus new, you would see all that stuff very clearly in your outliner. So let me make a note to post that. I will post that underneath. I'm going to put this video, the recording of this session, on a new page on SketchUp Exchange. So when I post that thread with the video, I'll put all these resources I'm talking about underneath there. But let me make a note of that right now. Let's see, what other questions we have? So somebody asked about the pricing of Lumion. See, it seems like way more, right? It seems that way. It is a lot more. Lumion Pro is $4,030, and Lumion Standard is Standard is $2,030. Pro is $4,060. Now, I will tell you though, I have Lumion Pro. It contains all of the entire library. That's like the main difference, is that it has the entire library. But if you've ever rendered in any other program, you know that renderings are slow. They it takes a long time, a lot of guesswork to set up. It just burns time. Renderings burn time. And with Lumion, renderings are absolutely instant. And so, furthermore, because it renders so fast, we can create HD animation. And to me, rendering an animation, unless it's in SketchUp and SketchUp look, photorealistic animation is like just no way. With Lumion, you hit render and you can have a couple minutes of animation when you come back in the morning. And so I will say, we run some webinars from time to time showing Lumion. But I will say that once I got Lumion Pro, I cannot imagine going back and rendering in any other program. It is so much easier and so much faster that it's just, I wouldn't be able to do it. It would just be painful to go back. But I will say there's a place for some of those programs, like I mentioned, Twilight. If you are an interior designer and you need super high-end photorealistic lighting, you're going to get better results in something like Twilight. But it's not to say that Lumion wouldn't do a great job too. And to be honest with you, I would not go back to Twilight. I would use Lumion, and the lighting engine in there is really solid. It's just if you need that real fine level of lighting on, and a little more control than those other programs might be better suited. But for architecture, for night renders, for adding effects like water, fire, smoke, walking people, it's unbelievable how much faster and how much easier Lumion makes that entire process. Oh, let's see. All right, so some excellent questions there, guys. I'd never leave anybody hanging. If you have any questions I didn't answer, just fire them off. But otherwise, I guess we'll probably start winding things down. So if you have a question, just throw it up there in the chat panel. Otherwise, we're going to start doing these more often. I know I've said that before, but my roles over here have kind of changed around, and I'm going to be a lot more available to do these things. Is there a door maker plugin? I do not know of a door maker plugin, but I would send a comment to, I think it was either the SketchUp team or maybe ask them. That would be pretty slick. But I do not know of a door maker plugin. Not to say that there isn't one. Standard sheets or title blocks, if you covered these. So that would be in layout. I'll switch my window over to layouts. So, let's see. I forget. There's a chapter in the book. I never know the chapter numbers off the top of my head, but I think it was under layout collections. Yeah, layout collections, and like page 232, 231 is creating a title block template. So these title blocks, you can see those when you go to File, New, and so like New, and then I have my templates. So like I always prefix my templates with previously BIC, now it's Brightman Tall, BTI. And then you can also see I have other templates that I use for different clients that I work with. So like Morgan Design Associates, when I'm working with Bill, I start with his template. So it's a real good idea to get all these things set up, and it just makes your life a lot easier. Like Bill wants to start a new project, I've got his template, and I also have a scrapbook that corresponds with this template. So I can go over here and look at like, I think I called this one Heavy Hand Style. So you can see like this template is set up in heavy hand, and then all these scrapbooks are using heavy hand. So it makes it really easy for me to switch between jobs and clients and keep things going. So as far as that goes, I would recommend checking out the book, Layout Collections chapter, where you actually build your own title block. And then save it to your resources folder, and then somewhere on the SketchUp Exchange, we definitely do have like a bunch of these templates. I'll double check on that too. I got to make some notes here about what my assignments of. I need to look up that plugin, and I need to maybe I'll just update those and see where I put those and link to them. Let's see. I'm going to jump down to that question that was just asked, and I'll make sure I go back and ask the other ones because this kind of pertains here. So the best way to get an AutoCAD title block transferred into, so you mentioned SketchUp, but really if it's a title block, you want to bring that into Layout. So one option is you could import the title block into SketchUp. So like, let me switch my window. This is kind of it's a total workaround, but let me show you what I mean here. So if I go to File and choose File, choose Import. I want to import files of type. Those need to be DWGs. All right, so right away I've got these class files from a training I was doing last week. So this plan drawing, I'll open that up just to show you. This isn't a title block, but it is a plan drawing. Okay, so now I should technically be able to copy this. So let's pretend that this is a title block. I can copy it, and then in Layout, I can just choose Edit, Paste. All right, so there's my SketchUp model that just gets pasted in. I only use that copy paste when I know a model is a throwaway. So what I'm getting at here is that if you already have a title block built in CAD, you would import that title block into SketchUp, copy it and paste it, and then set it all up in Layout. So like I would just go, I'd go to my SketchUp model here. I would go to a top view. Maybe I'd set it to ortho, and if it's a title block imported at the proper scale, you'd want to set it to 1:1. For this one, I'm just going to set it to half inch or quarter inch. It's got to render as a vector. All right, so when it renders as a vector, I can right-click on that viewport and choose Explode. And now that line work becomes Layout line work. So then I can ungroup. Sometimes you have to ungroup a couple times. And at that point, you can imagine that now you've got your AutoCAD line work pulled into Layout. And then you would just want to layer it and set it up as necessary. The text does not transfer. So sometimes what I do to tackle that is, let's see, File, let me close this, and I'm going to close this one too. Let's just open a blank file. Okay, so sometimes, let me switch over. So I'm going to search for title block, and we're going to search images. So you could either take a screenshot of your existing title block, print screen on your keyboard, or like let me do search tools by size. We're going to go with large. So like here's a pretty large title block. I just searched on Google Images. I can right-click and choose Copy Image, and now I'll hop back into Layout, right-click, Paste. So, I can just kind of put this image in as a background, and that makes it a lot easier to just add your text, adjust the text sizes. It's a lot easier to kind of design the title block off of, something you've already created, rather than just adding these lines and text and just kind of guessing where they go. So that's what I would say is that if you have an AutoCAD title block, you could import the line work, and then you could take a print screen and paste that into layout so that you have something to reinsert your text. As you know, as broken as that might sound broken, but truth is that exercise should really only take, like, I can't imagine it taking more than like 20 minutes to rebuild a title block with this method. Let's see. All right, so yeah, viewer 61, give me shoot me an email. That's all good. And yeah, if you guys have other questions, you know, post them on the forum. I've been a lot more active on there, so if you throw your questions up, you know, keep in mind the more clear you can be. If you can share your files and post those things, that's great. Helps me to just open it and answer your questions pretty quickly. Also, keep in mind that, like, questions for, you know, the more beginner, intermediate questions, those should be covered in SketchUp 101 or SketchUp 201. So ideally, you know, just ask those advanced questions that aren't covered in those classes. And yeah, I appreciate you guys coming in today. So if there's no other questions, we'll kind of hang tight for another minute or two. But I do appreciate you guys coming in, and stay in touch. So. Viewer 102, stick with the 101 and the 201 and read the book. And if you just go through it, that stuff, that's a great start. I mean, that'll get you to a level of understanding that's way far ahead. Okay, so Frank Oliver, my man Frank here, talk about sections and groups. Sections in groups, I have actually started to shy away from. And one reason for that, let me switch my window here. Okay, hold on a sec here. We're reconnecting. Oh, hold on just a moment here. I think that my connection got jogged. All right, so while that's okay, I think we're back to good here. So what I found with the sections and groups is, like, on the row house, like, if I don't know, let's just pretend this is a row house component. I'll just give it a little bit of something so that we can tell it's different. Like this. Okay, so that's a component. Now, if I copy that component like 4 times, and then I found that the best way to cut my sections is to just keep my section planes at the base level of the model. So what that looks like is if I just add a section plane here. That way, it's chopping through all of my geometry at the same time, and I don't see any weird things happening. So let's say that, you know, that's this one. Now, what happens if I'm going to trash those other ones for now. If I go inside of my component, I can add a section plane there, and typically you're not going to have problems. So, like right now, that's the desired effect, right? But what gets goofy is if I start flipping and mirroring these components. So look at that. I just mirrored it to -1, and it flipped the section plane. So if you have something like the row house project, where you've got these components that are repeating, but if they're mirroring, you don't want to bury your section planes in those containers. you want to keep your section planes on the outside. But, you know, the truth is that, like, that's really only a row house project that would apply to. But, you know, if you're just working on a custom home or just a remodel or just a new office space, if there's no mirroring and repeating of plans, it's not going to matter. So if that's the case, then it would be no problem for you to, I just tapped on do, to start varying multiple levels of, of section planes. So, like, you know, one use for this would be maybe you want to cut your plan here, and then you want to reverse that cut and maybe cut again. So you can only have multiple active section planes if they are separated by containers. So I'll say that in a different way. You can only have one active section plane per level of your model. And by level, I mean, like, this one is in the base level of my model, and then if I go inside another level to this component, I can have a section plane in there. If I want to have another section plane, I could take all of these guys, make them a group, and now I can have another section plane like here. All right. But you know what? We got some goofy stuff happening. See, this is where I fought with this quite a bit, and this is where I landed on the idea that it's always best to just keep your section planes at the base level. So you can see that, like, this is not behaving exactly as I expected it to. My guess is that it has to do with components. So, like, if if each one of these were groups, my guess is that it would probably behave the way I want it to. But there's just something happening with components. It just doesn't work the way I expect it to. So as far as section planes in groups, I suggest sticking with that base level. Just keep your section planes at the base level, and most of the time that solves 95% of the issues and covers 95% of the situations that come across. Does that help, Frank? Does that make sense? Cool. Very good. All right. You guys have any other questions? I'm glad to answer them. Otherwise, I guess we're getting close to lunchtime here. Awesome. Yeah, you guys are very welcome. Thank you very much for coming in dinner time in Europe. Enjoy. So, yeah, thank you guys for coming in, and I'll be talking to you soon on the forum, and yeah, give me a holler anytime. So. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.